the Empowered Healer podcast with Songbird Grandmother, episode 7. So here we are. It is the month of July when I'm recording this. It is getting to the full intensity of summer. We've just passed our summer solstice and are heading into the midsummer time where the plants are starting to really reap and grow, and the first harvests are coming. We just got some squash and cucumbers from our garden, and it's just such a pleasant surprise because it's that time when all your hard work and effort starts to manifest into things that you can actually eat. And that's actually not just the garden, but that's our internal world, our external world. And those of you who are connected to the natural cycles, you will understand that there's a season for everything. And right now we are in the growing season, and soon we will be in the harvest season. So keep putting those good works down, keep spreading those good blossoms and seeds, and remember that no matter what the current climate of the world is, that wherever you go, whatever you do, you are the master of your domain. And you can react, you can respond to life as it is happening, but you don't have to participate in the things that grow weeds in your own garden. So here we go into this week's topic. And because we are in the growing season and we are in the harvest season, there's been lots of things on my mind to share about what it means to be an empowered healer. So in this current time that we're living in, we are heading into a very destructive time. And if you just look around the world, everything is destroying, everything is ending, everything appears to be in a space of conclusion. And this is right in alignment with the Tonapuali, with the ancient calendar of what we now call Mexico, the Olmecs, South America. This is a time of the ending of cycles. And we're right in the real ending. This year, 2025, is the opportunity to end what needs to be ended, to illuminate and to bring forward what needs healing. And moving forward into next year, when we're in a totally different new energy, the decisions and choices made this year become more relevant for the upcoming years and for the next 52 years. This is a time where you have the opportunity to completely destroy whatever has been causing you pain and suffering, and choose new pathways, new doorways that will hopefully lead you to more love, more light, more joy. But as with all things, there's times of endings, there are times of transition, there are times of massive upheaval, and you will climb one mountain to climb another. And I think that's where delusion comes in, because we always fear those mountains. You finish one mountain, and instead of being joyous and happy about the next mountain, we seem to go back into dread, fear, and chaos when we have to go through the transition. Transitions are never easy, but they are part of our human walk. And there's always a lot of sadness and pain that can also come with massive endings. We are seeing roots become unrooted. We are seeing things that we have not seen, most likely, unless you're older, but our ancestors have seen. And one of the thoughts that the spirit world was really sharing with me this last week is how we are living in and through what our ancestors survived. Many of us here on this continent, our ancestors experienced atrocities that are beyond our understanding. We experienced in our bloodlines things that we are still healing from and reclaiming. And many empowered healers, you are here to heal and to mend and to grow and expand your lineages. However, most people have no records or very little records left of what exactly that lineage is. And this is where we turn to the spirit world. This is where you turn to meditation, prayer. This is where you turn to the things you do not see, but the things you feel, like the wind, the knowing, the internal guidance that will lead you forward, that will help you to open your ancient power, the ancient power of your blood, beyond the trauma, beyond the suffering, beyond the wounds, beyond the hurt. There is an ancient power hidden. And during the times of atrocities, these powers are what helped our ancestors survive. And not just survive, but to blossom and eventually fruit. Many of you are coming into the time of your lineage where it is time to fruit the harvest. However, before you can fruit the harvest, there will be insects, parasites, wasps, all kinds of diseases, plagues, you name it, that will come and try to invade your living plant, your living flower, to stop you from fruiting your lineage. And this specifically goes out to those of you who know you have spiritual psychic powers. You know it. You've seen it time and time again. You've experienced it. You've been called every name in the book. You've been literally hung at the stake, burned at the stake. You've had those visions. You've had those memories. You've had experiences that you know are not of this world. You know it. You've seen it. You've experienced it. You've denied it. You've repressed it. You've suppressed it. Others have condemned you. You have been persecuted in every way, shape, and form because of the energy and vibration that you walk with. That's from your lineage. That's from your bloodline. That's from the deepest parts of yourself. And at this point in time, it's time to really not just awaken. I think awakening becomes like this catchword. It's the part of the kind of new age, false teachings, so to say, that have permeated into the spiritual communities. Awakening is a must. It's like waking up from a dream, and you'll have many awakenings throughout your spiritual path, many ahas, many woos, many places of transition, many endings, many beginnings. That's just cyclical life. And when you're a spiritual empowered healer, you will probably experience those much more than the quote unquote normal population. But awakening is different than embodying, because you can stay in a state of awakening for a whole lifetime, really. But when you start to really embody your spiritual power, your ancestral gifts, your, let's call them magical abilities that are supernatural in nature, then you start to fruit your lineage. When you awaken your lineage, you're just constantly in a state of awareness, remembering, thinking, growing. But when you embody, it means it's no longer child's play. It's no longer something that you repress and suppress. It's something you share. It's something you magnetize. It's something you radiate that then brings forward the opportunities and gifts that you are here to share. So when you really embody who you are, who your ancestors are, where you come from, what you know deep inside that no school book ever taught you, that is when you fruit. That is when the ancestors cheer. That is when you heal. That is when you move beyond awakening and you move into reality. You move into embodiment. You move into the places and spaces where fear will not permeate you, where you dissolve anxiety and depression, and you rise into power and vibration. And in this modern world, people get really caught up in titles, names. They get really caught up in status, money, physicality, what they look like. However, we're beyond that. The color of your skin, all of that is superficial, because somebody can look a certain way and you would never guess that they have supernatural psychic gifts. I've met some extraordinary healers on my journey who doing powerful things, and the way that they look is nowhere like you would imagine, because a lot of that is fairy tales. And then I would meet other people who the way that they look is like, you know, that looks like what you think that type of healer would look like. That looks like, somebody that you've seen in a history book or something. And they had nothing. That had no power. No, it was just all looks. It was all facade. It was all feathers and glue, versus the person who looked like the ordinary plain Jane or Joe and could move the mountain, could open doors, who could be that person who is that conduit, because they spent their time, money, and energy on developing who they are on the deepest levels of who they are. They didn't focus on the fancy cars, the fancy house, the fancy life, the facade. They focused on the inner world, on the inner power, and opening to the spirit world. So, like, for example, in Korea, if you want to go the traditional shamanic path, that takes a lot of time, money, energy. You could easily spend over $100,000 and just barely hit the tip of anything. And that's the modern day training. because it takes a lot of time, money, and energy to become a shaman. It's not something that, like in the ancient days, you could go and you had a gift and somebody would take you in and you would do manual labor and work for your training. Now the exchange is time and money. It's still rigorous training, but a lot of people have to go into huge financial debt to walk their path. And then on the opposite end, here in the West, if you were to, if you were born with these gifts and you lived in a tribe, then if you were lucky, you would find a teacher and they would take you in, but there was no money expected. But you would have to like have a second, third, fourth job to be able to live and do your training and take the time to go meditate, to do lodges, to do all the different stuff that you'd still have to do to develop your power. However, you would have to do all this other stuff to do what you really want, which is to develop your gift. So both of those are very extreme paths, and they both require a lot of time, money, energy, because on either end, whether you're paying for your training or you're not paying for your training, you're paying for your training through your time, through your energy, through your being, because that's the world we live in. Like nothing's for free. And so when we talk about how do you truly embody who you came to be, we can't negate the fact that there's going to be time, money, energy involved with anything. If you wanted to be a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, accountant, you're going to have to put time, money, energy into training and to schooling and to development. And the biggest thing that every healer comes across is the time management, because time becomes the most problematic. Money, money is, people always have money problems no matter how much money they make, because there's a million and one ways to spend money. However, when you want to become your fullest embodied self, time and money management becomes like the first priority, because you can't even think about doing anything unless you have time and money. You can't, you just can't, because what you'll run up against is the two doors. You'll either have too much time and not enough money, or too much money and not enough time. Those are always the two doors that anybody that I talk to who's interested in spiritual training, who wants to pursue a shamanic path, who wants to like open their psychic gifts and powers, they always tell me those two things. Well, I would love to do training, but I don't have the money. Well, I'd love to do training, but I don't have the time. And so it's like that rare bird, that rare person who has the time and the money. And then the next part is the energy, because you could have time, money, but no energy, and you can't pursue your gift because now you're too tired, or you just don't have it in you to give what you would have to give to really embody who you truly are. And this is why this path is a long, arduous journey, because you run up against those two things, time and money. And if you're not coming up against time and money, it's energy exchange. Because the spirit world is a demanding space. It is. It's a very demanding space, because it's not something easily accessed. It's something you have to really work for. And it's not readily available. And what I mean about not readily available is that you may meet 100 false teachers before you meet the one. You may listen to 100 podcasts to listen to the one. You may go to every seminar, every workshop, every ceremony to meet the one, because the false is more prevalent than the real. The real is scattered all over the world and a lot of times hidden, because true mastery is not for the masses. Like, you listening to this podcast is not for the masses. True healing, empowered healing, is not for the masses because of the time, money, energy commitment, because of the destruction of self-doubt, self-confusion, self in general. The egoic self will suffer a massive death on the empowered healing journey. And nobody wants to talk about that. People talk about the ego all day long, and they even maybe talk about ego death. But when you experience a real ego death, that is not appealing. That is not something people long for, like the Lamborghini. Okay, I've never heard anybody say, wow, I really want to kill my ego and go through an egoic death. That's my dream. No, that is not in the cards, so to say. And if it is, sometimes people take those negative cards out, like the tower or the death card, or they take all they never do the reverse cards for all you tarot people. They only do the upright positive or the oracle cards because they don't want to look at those hard realities, which is negating half of life. It's like saying nothing bad will ever happen to you, which is a total lie, because something bad will always happen to you. It's not about having something happen to you. It's about, how are you going to go through it? Are you going to respond, or are you going to react? Are you going to just go through it? Or are you going to stop, complain, whine, and never go through it? Sometimes you just have to go through it, and there's nothing you can do. You have to drive through the rain, to drive through the mud. You have to pray you'll make it. Sometimes you don't even know how you'll make it, but you'll make it. That's the spiritual journey. Just knowing that no matter how I get through this, I'm going to make it. And when I get to that other side, I'm going to have a lot to process, integrate, and embody in my life. That's why wisdom is truly an embodied space. And it doesn't come fast, cheap, and easy. Wisdom is earned. And that's what this empowered healer's journey is. It's a lived experience that you earned through your ancestry, through your lineage, to have the opportunity to flower and fruit your gifts into the world. And only you can do it. You cannot pay or bribe somebody to walk your path for you. That is for you and you alone. And I think the biggest obstacle for people on this path is giving up. It's for giving in. It's for allowing other people to tell you what you should or shouldn't do with your life. For allowing other people to rule parts of your life, whether it's mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, psychological. It's allowing society to tell you what is acceptable and not acceptable. It is allowing political decisions to dim yourself, to hide your light, to make you want to cringe, to blame, to victimize. Those are all part of the egoic death. because the ego wants to be something. It wants to show off. It wants to live a life that it thinks society will approve of. Empowered healers, that's not the life that you came to live. The empowered healer is here on a totally different path. It's a path of self authenticity, it's a path of reclaiming, re emerging ancient parts that have been lost in the sun, that have been hidden beyond sight, that are ready to truly open and flower and fruit. Because hidden deep within you is a whole garden that has not been tended to in sometimes decades, sometimes centuries, and sometimes aeons. But it's still there. It's still permeating. It's still vibrating. It's still ready to be watered and fertilized and nurtured and tended to. It's somewhere in there. But you do have to be willing to invest the time, money, energy. And if not into yourself, maybe into your children or their children or their children's children. Because the thing about this power is that it's like a ladder. It just keeps climbing. It just keeps looking. It just keeps growing. It's like a vine that keeps going, looking for the one who will flower and fruit, the next evolution, the next step in your family lineage. And what I think is most important, especially during these times of massive death and transition and overwhelming change, is that you remember your ancestors. You embody their power. You work with them. You activate your altars. You learn as much as you can about yourself. And you really pray with your heart that you will open the door to their power, that you will really open the door to helping humanity, that you will flower and that you will fruit, that you will take your time and grow in the right ways. And if you really truly want to go deeper on your path, if you truly know that you have these ancient bloodlines, these powerful bloodlines, and you're really ready to truly open the door, then I invite you to go ahead and book a healing session. And let's go deeper into your journey. Let's see who your ancestors are. Let's see what doors they can open for you. Let's heal the parts of the ego that are still there, destroying your life. And let's go deeper on this path of self-transformation and evolution. Because right now, the empowered healers from 2026 to 2028, your powers are ready. And if you don't go through the egoic death, they will just remain dormant. And unfortunately, the more powerful somebody is and the more they avoid and self-destruct, the harder the life will be. No matter the good that is happening, there will always be that cloud. Let's take care of that cloud. Thank you so much for joining me today for this episode of the Empowered Healers podcast. Until we meet again, I wish you nothing but peace, joy, happiness, and spiritual power. Aho.